Hello and welcome back to the Casual Fanatic. Today I'm just going to be starting a new series. I talked about yesterday. I talked about the video about starting and talking about Newcastle, about all the progression and everything. Still going to be doing that, just slightly different form. Today I'm starting the new series called Three Key Men. I'm going to be going over every Premier League team, 1 to 20, and talk about the three most important players. And I'm going to break them into the categories of most important player currently, like who's the most important crucial player for them going on for the rest of the season, then talking about the most promising or let's say important person for the structure of the team going forward, as well as recommending a signing for each team. First team, Newcastle. Most important player, there's a couple to choose from, to be honest. Like, not only do you have Kieran Tierney, the captain, what he's been able to provide for Newcastle in terms of leadership, in terms of spirit, his ball progression, the way positionally he's been able to give them a constant outlet, and the quality that he has on set pieces, on free kicks, it's been a crucial figure for them. I can't stress enough how important Sven Botman's been for the defense, how important Fabian Schär's ball progression has been from central of defense, Dan Burns' influence on them. There's been loads of players to pick from, but there's only one man that right now Newcastle cannot go without, and that's Bruno Guimaraes. Not only is he the only real central player that ends up occupying the center of the park, because, for example, Joe Willock, more on him later, occupies a very left-hand centric position when he plays in the midfield. Sean Longstaff is given that right-hand task to really sometimes drop in and cover for Kieran Tierney, as well as link up with him, Kieran Trippier, and link up with him. Bruno Guimaraes is the heart and soul of that team. Not only is he anchoring every attack, he's progressing the ball, he's providing defensive stability. An underrated part of his game is the tackles that he wins per game, as well as the duel percentage that he wins. He's winning 55% of his duels this season, ground duels. Doesn't have as much aerial duel, let's say, ability, but he's covered for that with the absolute man giants that he has around him. He's also provided goals, way outperforming his XG. His XG being under 1. He has 3 goals this season. He's also been able to provide assists. But what he really does give is he's the person that can grab the ball, transition it into the more attacking outlets. He's the one that's linking up the play. He's a constant outlet for him. It's almost like he's standing in the middle of the pitch and there's just a light around him, and just everyone just get the ball to Bruno, and he'll figure out what to do here. And that's why Bruno Guimaraes is the most important player for Newcastle for the rest of the season if they want to get top 4. Next, we're talking about Alexander Isak. And he's going to be the most promising, most important player for Newcastle's future here. Because not only did Newcastle have been making sensible, adequate signings that all make sense, and honestly, they've been structuring everything perfectly. But one thing that's always that difficult element to kind of like address is, how do we get that world-class elite striker? And that's something that most teams to this day still struggle with. Teams go years without getting that proper clinical striker, and there's very few of them available, the ones that can be consistent, the ones that can be called truly world-class strikers. We just got rid of a golden generation of strikers with Leo and Benzema and Aguero and all of them, right? Suarez. But now you're going into an era where there's very few really to choose from in terms of world-class talent. And most of them are still the old ones creeping out of their previous generation. With Alexander Isak, Newcastle have a potential gem. Not only is he 6'4", good with both feet, solid aerially, but he has this knack and intelligence for making the right runs at the right time. His ability to ghost in behind players, his ability to also come close, and when he needs to receive the ball to feet, you can see he's a good technician for a tall, lengthy player, right? He's a good technician. He's able to link up the play, but what Newcastle cannot do is isolate him and not have anyone to link up with. They've been able to get players close enough to him in the few games that he's had, but it's how they maintain that overall. And that's where I go into and talk about the signing that I'm going to be recommending them in the next clip. But for Alexander Isak, what Newcastle need to do is figure out a way to get him scoring consistently, not the streaky player that we've seen in La Liga. He has the talent, there's the quality there, there's the intelligence, but it's how do the Newcastle get the most out of him. He's the biggest signing yet. They spent a lot of money on him, and if they get this right, they've just addressed their striker situation for the next 5 to 10 years, and that cannot be underestimated. Number 3 is the key signing for Newcastle this upcoming summer or winter if they can get it done, but I doubt it because of who I'm going to recommend. For me, is going to be in midfield when he needs to address the Joe Willock, Sean Longstaff lack of almost quality, lack of help in with Bruno Guimaraes. Their roles are so important because Bruno plays almost all around and plays in that 6-8 kind of role. They need someone that's going to be able to link between the attack, link with, if they bring back in St. Max into the fold, whoever the almost assisting in the terms of, because of Dan Burns' lack of, let's say, attacking output. What they need is a midfielder who's going to be able to keep the ball going, keep the ball rolling over, transition into attack, link up with Bruno Guimaraes, feed the ball into Isak, find another option. And my recommendation is Alexis McAllister. Alexis McAllister has completed 89% of his passes this season and an insane 69% of his long balls this season. He also adds in a goal-scoring element to the midfield, which Newcastle don't really have. They have 3 goals from Bruno Guimaraes. Joe Willock is here and there. Sean Longstaff, nothing really reliable, nothing consistent. But Alexis McAllister has 5 goals in the Premier League this season, has 7 in all comps. No assists, surprisingly, but that doesn't mean he isn't creating. He isn't creating chances as well. He adds a defensive part of his game as well, as we saw with Argentina and we've seen with Brighton throughout the season, especially with the fact that Brighton, most of the games, are playing with a 2 in midfield and they never look outrun in midfield. Always look so comfortable. And having technicians like Bruno and Alexis McAllister that are both able to find the ball and have that defensive acumen is going to be crucial for Newcastle moving forward. He's not going to come cheap. His transfer market value is at 42 million. But if Newcastle have the funds that we're talking about, which we think they do, and they're willing to spend it, they've made sensible signings, but they haven't been afraid to spend what they need to. When it's Sven Botman 35 mil, whether it's Isak 70 or Bruno Guimaraes 40, they've been willing to spend it when they see it makes sense and when it sees fit. And this is the perfect opportunity. Go and grab Alexis McAllister.